October 10 is the day for balloting. Which position are you, first of all, on the lookout for?
I'm not sure we are so much fixated on a particular spot, because history should guide us. And of course, history indeed has been guiding us in terms of the nomenclature. Of course, I mean, there are people who are so fixated on the numbers and who want number one, number two. There has been instances, President Akufo-Addo has been number one, he's lost. There has been instances, Kufuor was not number one, he's lost. You recall the last election, ZM was number 8. And we're all preaching that we want to break the 8.
Yeah.
And recall the fact that Dr. Bawumia was number one. We felt that, I mean, usually it's easy for people to, especially people.
Yeah, but it's really easy, isn't it? If you're number one, I just go into the ballot box. I don't want to look at what's happening below. I just go number one. And
but from the last election, we have learned a very great lesson. That
doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter, because for people to move from 1 up to 2, 3, jump 5, 6, 7, and go and move for 8, and you realize the margin of the vote difference, the vote shares that President Mahama had vis-a-vis ours. If we look at even comparing our vote share vis-a-vis that of the 2020 vote share that we had, that's a decline of about 2.1 million votes difference, despite the fact that our candidate was still number one. We still lost to President Mahama with about 1.7 million votes difference out of 276 constituencies. Unfortunately and sadly enough, we lost about 199 constituencies, which is about 72% rejection rate. And interestingly and very sadly now, out of about 9 regions in this country, MPP has just 5 parliamentary seats. And then this year has 93 of them. There are 4 regions we do not even have a seat at all. 345,000 and over of our voters voted for our PCs. Yes, they voted against our presidential candidate. So, I mean, in spite of what they say, he was still number one. So, we have learned a very great lesson that sometimes it's not really about the numbers, but it's also about the acceptance. Acceptance of the candidate.
These are all the misfortunes of the NPP after the 2024 elections. How much of a responsibility is your candidate taking, Kennedy Agyapong?
In terms of?
Oh, your misfortune. You can't say that it was all the fault of President Akufo-Addo and his Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, was it?
I mean, that would be an unfair assertion. But ultimately, when you are a leader of any group, and especially for a political contest like this, the natural expectation is that the leader who took us to the election, most importantly, and at all times have to come out to take responsibility on behalf of the whole party. It does not also...
You're still going back to blame Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia?
No, not necessarily. Not necessarily. I mean, it doesn't also mean that if you are Kennedy Agyapong or any other candidate, you don't take responsibility. Ultimately, we need to take collective responsibility as a party. But whichever way, I mean, there was still leadership and somebody still has to
accept the point that the misfortune of the NPP may not necessarily have been Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's fault?
Well, you see, we are not trying necessarily to pin it on him, but at the same time, we are also unable to separate him from the factors that also caused our defeat. For instance, if we talk about the DDEP, one of the factors that angered people to vote against us, it would be very difficult for the candidate Bawumia to disassociate himself from it, because he played a very key role in the government. For instance, if we look at, for instance, say, the exchange rate. I mean, Dr. Bawumia was hailed as an economic messiah. He was noted for that. And he started performing. It may not necessarily have been his doing, but at the end of the day, the data has it that from 1:4, where Mahama left it, he took it, or we as a party, of course, I mean, he led the economic management team, took it from 4 to 17. In that circumstance, whether he did it or it was even a collective responsibility, ultimately he will still bear
leaving Nana Akufo-Addo out of the equation?
I am not saying, I'm not sure it's a matter of apportioning blames. I'm not sure that is the conversation. But the conversation and the broader conversation has been that whichever way, if we look at the factors that caused our defeat, most of the factors may be systemic and will still affect us as a party.
Don't you think that
if I was allowed to land, allowed to land, so it is even the more reason why we are of the view that at a crucial time like this, even in the spirit of revival, we will need a new face to bring the party together, go for the next election. We are confident that a new face will revive the party.
Are you not guided by history that no first-time candidate of your party has ever made it to the national election successful?
we are very much aware of the history. I shared some data with your production team, and if respectfully they can also share, maybe be able to guide us. You see, nobody is saying that people have come for the first time and won in MPP, but the track record also for the renewal of a mandate, especially in the second chance debate, has always been contingent on a candidate's performance. We are not saying that, well, Dr. Bawumia should not be given the opportunity because, I mean, in MPP history, nobody has won for the first time. But indeed, even in terms of a first round, there has been a candidate who has won for the first round. But if you look at the voter share from Adubuahin's time, and if, yes, the projection, if you look at it, if you look at Adubuahin, for instance, in 92, he had about 1.2 million votes. Right,
and we must point out that this is your own source data.
Yes. But I mean, it's subject to verification by any other person because it's within the public space.
Yeah.
If you look at Adubuahin's data, Adubuahin's vote share, that's about 1.2 million. Yeah. And I mean, context is also very important. This was a time where we're transitioning from a military era to a democratic era. So the circumstances surrounding the election will not that be clear. It will obviously be hostile. Yes, so between him and President Rawlings, the vote difference was even about 1.1 million. In spite of even this performance and having very short time to even campaign, the party jettisoned him just on the basis that he was unable to demonstrate a very remarkable track record of performance.
Is that what the history books will tell us about Professor Adubuahin?
But at the end of the day, he couldn't win. He couldn't win his next primaries. It is not the case that he didn't go for the next primaries. Bless him. He went for the next primaries, but he couldn't win. Then candidate Kufuor came in. Candidate Kufuor then increased the voter share to 2.8 million. So from 1.2 to 2.8 million, certainly, it will be almost impossible to look into Kufuor's face and say that even though you've increased our voter share, we are not renewing your mandate. So on that basis, he has demonstrated some track record of performance. And I indicated that the history is always guided by the very variable that, I mean, it's always caveated on performance.
Yes.
So obviously, candidate Kufuor went again 3.6 million, and then he won, right? And even his second term, he then increased to around 4.5 million. Again, President Akufo-Addo then came in 2008, if you recall. Even with President Akufo-Addo, recall the highest office that President Akufo-Addo had ever occupied in the history of our party was 2 ministerial positions. He has never been a vice presidential candidate for the past 8 years and also a vice president for the past 8 years, cumulatively being 16 years. But yes, sir, President Akufo-Addo's popularity alone was able to track-jet the party for it to get about 4.5 million votes, even in his first time, in his first round. If you recall, even the first round, he won. Until they went for the second round and time constituency and the runoff, and then he lost. So he has demonstrated that track record and that level of performance. So certainly the party felt they were obliged to renew his mandate. Then again, Kanda Akufo-Addo came the second time, the 2012 one. It went to court. Even 4 justices of the Supreme Court, the Superior and the Apex Court of our land, agreed with Mr. Akufo-Addo and then candidate Akufo-Addo that we believe we won. Just that 5 of them said, no, we disagree, you didn't win. In that circumstance, there was no way of changing President Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo came again in 2016, won with 5.2 million. Then 2016, won with 5.8 million. Then, interestingly, and this is very important for us to highlight, a blessing, in 2020, despite all the issues surrounding his administration, where people said he has collapsed Galamsey, he has collapsed banks, and all the circumstances, Akufo-Addo's voter share rather increased from 5.8 million to 6.7 million. So now the question is that if you look at all the history and the trajectory and the graph, it demonstrates that we are always on the ascending trajectory. And in the history of MPP, it is only Dr. Bawumia who has reduced our vote share from 6.7 million to 4.6 million. So it has been up, then he brings it down. So it is not a case that, oh, other people had the opportunity to go twice or 3 times.
Okay, I'll tell you what from your own data. If you're looking at your own data,
yes,
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia arguably may be the only candidate in the NPP who's gained more nominal votes on his first attempt than any other candidate that the NPP has.
Yeah, but that would be a very simplistic logic.
No, I mean, just
do you know why? Let me. I'm going to answer you. I'm very prepared for this for this interview.
I get that.
That would be a very simplistic logic because you also have to take into account and consideration the number of voters and the voters registered.
I get that.
And people who voted.
But so in nominal terms, He's had more votes than any other individual who's trying for.
No, I'm saying that argument will not suffice because you also have to look at Adubwahi. Then there is no comparison even in the first place.
Adubwahi is an outlier. If you look at the
you see, the point is that how many people voted during President Adubwahi's time? How many people voted during President Kufuor's time? Yeah. That is why, for the purpose of context and the discussion like this, use the percentage terms.
But I'm using your own data here.
No, I am saying that the data, you are using my own data, but with the wrong interpretation.
No, you choose to decide. I mean, on which.
No, but interestingly, if you are to go by that logic,
right.
If you are to go by that logic on his first time, then he also presupposes that if you look at Akufo-Addo's first time, Akufo-Addo's first time was what 4.5 million, and then Bawumia then comes to 4.6 million in his first time. But I'm saying that if you look at Akufo-Addo's first time, how many people voted during that time? In terms of the voter quality, the voter population, you also have to take that into consideration.
Data is subject to interpretation.
Yes, but I'm saying that it's subject to reasonable interpretation. That is the most important thing. It is not the case that data is subject to interpretation. So you make any voodoo analysis and you go your way.
This is no voodoo analysis. I'm surprised that you're taking me on this. And you brought your data into I'm interpreting the data based on what I see as well.
This is the first time that I'm seeing that you are going to use the nominal figures.
Yes.
No, you see.
Why won't you use the nominal figures?
Nominal figures will not be used. No, nominal figures will not. No, nominal figures will not be.
Percentage performance.
No, but you see, even let's even go by your logic.
I'm telling you, you can't dispute that.
Hold on.
I'm using your
I'm coming.
There has never been a case where a first-term candidate of the NPP has had more nominal votes
than
any other person in an election.
How many people voted?
Yeah.
But assuming without admitting.
I'm using your own data.
Perfect.
Yes,
let me even assume without admitting. Let me even assume for the purpose of this debate that if you are to go by that logic, it also presupposes that in the history of NPP, it is only Dr. Bawumia's performance in terms of the nominal figures that has seen the worst voter margin in terms of our defeat. He recorded 1.7 million votes.
That's fair in terms of percentage.
If you want to go by, so it presupposes that if you want to juxtapose the two, your argument about the nominal figures will not lie.
But nominal will also matter. It depends on what you choose to look at.
No, but you see, before you look at the nominal, before you accept the nominal figures, you also have to look at the base.
Do you know that if you have more people deciding in an election, obviously their factors will be different. Demographics will differ.
Yes.
So if you want us to use percentage points, we cannot apply the same dynamics.
Hold on. I'm coming.
For the 2024 election.
No. I'm saying that your argument about even nominal figures is defeated by the fact that going by the same nominal figures. He's the worst performer ever in the history of the party.
But he's the best ever to gain more nominal votes.
Because he had more votes. Because there were more voters.
And why I choose to lie, for instance, on nominal votes in an election is because each vote counts. You agree?
No, but you see, it will be completely simplistic and I mean, for the lack of better words, unreasonable logic.
Yeah, it is reasonable.
No, hold on.
Take a look at
how many people voted in 1992?
If I had and let's go with the nominal votes again. Let's go with the nominal votes again. If I had 4.6 million people voting for me in 2024, I obviously have more following, and you can't dispute that figure. I obviously have more following than any other candidate of the NPP who's contested any other elections. Facts.
It's a wrong analysis.
No, it's a fact. No, I'm dealing with the figures now.
No, you see. Okay. I am suggesting to you. In data analysis, that would be on a very wrong premise.
Why would it be wrong?
It will be on the wrong premise because you are not comparing your data alone. You are comparing your data with other people's data.
And I'm telling you that in nominal terms, you cannot dispute that fact.
Can I ask you a question? Even though
had
this is not
more votes, you see,
nominally
than any other.
I'm happy with what you are doing. I'm happy with that. This is a cross-examination. This is a cross-examination. This is an interview, so you can have a discussion.
I love the discussion.
So you have to look at also situations in the proper context. In 1992, how many people voted?
Right.
That is Adubwahi's first time.
Yes.
In 1996, when Kufuor came, how many people voted? In 2008, how many people voted? What was the total voter college? That's where you have to look at it and situate in that context. If you want to look at the nominal figures, then you may as well say, oh, then Adubwahi was the worst performer. But interestingly, Adubwahi and Rawlings, the gap between them was 1.1 million. Despite Adubwahi recorded 1.2 and Rawlings recorded around 2 points. I'm not so sure of the figures. But those that voted were still around 4 million thereabouts, right? You cannot compare that to, in the case of Dr. Bawumia, where the whole voter rate is about 18 million, and I don't have the figures that voted, but obviously more than 10 million because he recorded around 4.6 and Mahama recorded around 6.7 or 6. Muhammad's vote, I think, is for the public domain. Yeah. But I'm saying that if you want to even go by the logic, right, and maybe that would be the last I'll make this submission. If you want to go by the logic, then it also presupposes that, admittedly, even if you have to go by the logic, it also presupposes that if you want to measure their performance, he still had the worst performance, because in terms of the vote difference, he recorded the worst vote difference of 1.7 million votes difference. So I mean, the principle with this conversation is very straight, and the principle is that in MPP, second chance is not just given as a reward for just showing up. It has always been contingent and premised on a performance. And so if you take it, our trajectory and our graph, it is only those who have demonstrated a remarkable track record of increasing our voter share. You cannot pick your boss's voter share of 6.7 in 2020, reduce it by 31%. In just less than 4 years. Even if you want to look at...
So you choose to do percentage points, but what I want us to do tonight is to agree on the facts. And these are your figures you brought. I mean, these are not my interpretation. I'm looking at the figures you brought. And I want us to agree that yes, in percentage terms, as you're pointing out, he may have dipped votes, but if you're doing a comparative analysis of nominal votes...
Do you know the basis where I agree?
Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has the highest following compared to any other candidate who's gone for elections for the very first time.
I agree with you.
So you agree, yes?
No, let me land. No.
All right.
Don't get soundbites from me. I've been doing this job for a long time. I agree with you on just one contest. That you also agree with me. That in case of Dr. Bawumia's instance, an example that you are citing, there were more voters as compared to the previous ones. If you agree with me on that premise,
and in fact, that makes my point the more. That when you have more voters, then it would not be entirely fair if you're only making a percentage argument.
No, but you see, that is the more reason why if you are comparing to other voters, you have to try the percentage.
So why not use nominal, which refers to individuals who queued to vote for a candidate?
No, nominal will not apply here. It's a wrong logic.
Is making a decision based on the factors.
I'm surprised why we are doing this back and forth, because at the end of the day, like,
because I'm interested in the figures largely.
Because it won't be a logical analysis for you to say that Dr. Bawumia had 4.7 million votes. Whilst about 10 million people voted. And then you go and say, because Eduba he had 1.2 million, whilst about 4 million people voted, you don't consider the people that voted.
I get your dynamics.
If you want to add that you are good to go.
If you're doing addition and subtraction, Dr.
That's your addition and subtraction
has more following than any other candidate who's gone into.
Assuming with that, I'm to agree with you. Then you also agree with me that in terms of the worst performance from 92, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia has demonstrated the track record of giving us the worst performance ever in the history in terms of the same nominal.
Percentage.
No, even the nominal 1.7. He's the worst, because you see, Eduba he was about 1.1. Kofor was about 1.2 million. Even Akufo-Addo's first time, he actually won with about 100,000 votes difference, if you recall. And he went to 10, and Professor Mills beat him with about 23,000 votes. So even in terms of the nominal figures, it is only Dr. Bawumia that has also demonstrated the remarkable track record of the weakest and most poorest performance in the history.
Okay, I'm telling you this because of, you've heard that, Aka 9 and that's the argument from the side of the Bawumia campaign. They feel that there's so much work that has gone into the 2024 elections that if you bring a new candidate, you'd have to start the work all over again just to get to the point where he's gotten to.
Blessing. I am sure those who even brought the Aka 9 logic has abandoned it. So maybe we may better leave it undiscussed. The reason is that it's not only simplistic logic, but to be very fair and very honest to academic intelligence, one would say that is an unintelligent logic. The basis is that the 9 is not 9 as in a figure, it's in percentage terms. That's about 1.7 million votes difference. To sustain the logic and argument of Aka 9 which presupposes that Dr. Bawumia already has existing about 41% votes. It presupposes that then courtesy should also be extended to the NDC to also suggest and maintain that they too has 56 and for that reason there shouldn't be any contest in the first place. So that logic is completely flawed. It's completely unintelligent. It's not a logic that's supposed to be advanced in any academic discourse. It's deceptive and a fleeting logic that it shouldn't have even been thought of in the first place. Rekwa Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo was leading with about 100,000 vote difference. All that he needed was about 0.24 votes, which translates about 24,000 votes then. When he had won the first round in 2008. How many electoral cycles did it take him? It took him extra 2 electoral cycles. Plus the 2008 one, he went for 3 successive elections before he became president. So when you are trailing with about 1.7 million votes, and you go and tell the delegates that I can't pay, is either you don't respect them or you suspect that they are gullible and that you are going to take advantage of their intelligence.
Let's do this. You support and speak for Ken Agyapong, and it will not be fair for me to have you and not speak about what difference he would make. Here's a candidate who was, yes, number 2 in terms of the ranking.
Somebody just sent you a message that he said I should read for you.
Oh, okay, that's great.
Maxwell, he's a lawyer also.
Oh, great.
He said the host analysis is very interesting and out of touch. He should know that the voter population in 1992 and that of 2024 are so different that Bawumia was required to have increased his number rather than decrease it because the voter population increased during his time.
Because I never made those points. I'm just pointing to nominal figures.
Based on the nominal figures.
I was just pointing to nominal figures, and that's why I'm saying, and that can never be disputed, that he has more nominal votes than any other candidate of the NPP. That's a fact. Based on your figures, based on our figures.
Yeah, in terms of performance, he has more nominal West performance.
Which I won't fault you on that because you work for the Ken campaign. So that's why, fair enough.
No, he says these are statements of facts. This has nothing to do with
Okay, so let me get to another fact for you.
Yes.
Ken Agyapong was number 2, trailing with some 30+ percentage points of the
37.
votes. 37, yes. I recall being there when President Akufo-Addo was, raising both hands and, praising everyone for quite a united show. But if you're looking at what's happening now in this election again, you still have the same album, I believe, voter population, arguably.
It's changed insignificantly.
Yes.
It's changed insignificantly. Because
why do you feel that Ken Agyapong will now overlap Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who made quite a significant vote in your last primary?
Because this one is not data. Maybe I'm
no,
sure.
But it's still data.
Because this answer is not data. I'm sure we may agree here.
Okay.
So, it is undisputed that Dr. Bawumia was the establishment candidate. Then you recall President Akufo-Addo was with him. Obviously, you do everything. At that time, you had control of state security, state resources. Obviously, that will also facilitate and aid your campaign. You had almost over 6,000 appointees all following Dr. Bawumia. There were 137 MPs. Almost all of them, about 90 to 95% of them were all with Dr. Bawumia. MMDCs, all 276. You dare not say you are not for Dr. Bawumia.
Oh, that's what happened?
Yes, that's what happened. It's a public knowledge. I'm surprised you are feigning ignorance.
Oh, really?
I'm surprised you are feigning ignorance. But you look at all the constituencies and the chairman and executives, literally, they were pseudo campaign coordinators for Dr. Bawumia. Unwillingly, some of them, whether you like it or not, you have no option. And even at that time, the magic you could do was around 61%.
Right. And
that, in a sense, was a disapproval. Because with all this machinery to galvanize votes for your election, if you were able to do 61%, then that is a disapproval. And that reflected in general elections with about, if you look at Akufo-Addo's votes, about 2.1 million of them in 2020 just refused to go and vote. Because it's a vote, this one is data from 6.7 to around 4.6. That's about 2.1 million votes. Voters did not go and vote. So it just shows a disapproval rate. But this time, if you look at the sailor and the captain of the ship himself, he's abandoned the ship. President Akufo-Addo is no longer with Dr. Bawumia. Is a public knowledge. Brian Agyapong, the bankroller, he's a senior brother. Anywhere I sit, I wish him the best, despite the fact that we are of the opposing camp. I think he's doing well. Brian Agyapong was a bankroller and the sound supporter of Dr. Bawumia. Today he's contesting him. You heard of Engineer Agyapong?
Yes.
He was his campaign strategy, or more or less one of his national coordinators. Today he's contesting him. Recall my own boss and former boss, who I respect so much, Dr. Osedujum. He was almost on the verge of becoming his running mate. Today he's also contesting him. And so beyond even other internal issues that, of course, I may not choose to discuss on public television, even in his campaign, you could clearly see that there has been a paradigm shift. The wind has changed. People are now aligning with what the majority of Ghanaians are saying, that if you bring Ken Agyapong, we are going to vote. And see, the difference between Ken Agyapong and maybe all the other candidates, and especially candidate Bawumia, is the trust, the confidence and credibility and marketability of his personality. People so much trust him. And I've always maintained that trust translates into acceptance. And acceptance, indirectly or in another way, is marketability. I've always said that visibility is different from marketability. In the case of Bawumia, or Dr. Bawumia, he has had more visibility for the past 16 years. But Kennedy Agyapong goes beyond visibility. From 92 till now, he has been consistent with his approach, with his style, with his advocacy, with everything that he stood for: boldness, courage, assertiveness, honesty, and discipline, patriotism. So the people trust Kennedy Agyapong. It is the more reason why in circumstances like this, at a time like this where the youth, everybody is crying that we should get in somebody who can change the fortunes of the country by creating more jobs, by building more businessmen, by building more entrepreneurs. We are of the strong belief that in a crucial time like this, referencing 2028 as a year in question for an election such crucial to come, we are strongly of the view that Kennedy Agyapong stands tall.
A viewer is asking that if you're mentioning all these defections from the Bawumia campaign, how come that all these individuals who had defecting or moving to another camp are not throwing their weights behind Kennedy Agyapong, who came second in the last primaries of the party?
No, a lot of them have come. Alfred Obey is with Kennedy Agyapong.
Okay.
Some of them I don't have their permission.
But all these people contesting, why didn't they choose to just align with Kennedy Agyapong?
No, but you see, the other question is that why didn't also they choose to support Dr. Bawumia again? You also presuppose that they don't trust in his candidacy again, or candidature again. It's even the more reason why they believe that they have to contest him. Kennedy has already been in the race. His vision has been so clear to him. But those who have now given birth or born new visions, even out of a vision that they were initially supporting, that one raises more question, because that one essentially demonstrates that they do not even no longer believe in the Bawumia's vision again. All of a sudden, they believe their visions will be
but you ideally would have wanted that to be Ken's vision or Ken's time now.
I mean, not necessarily. I was part of a vision. I was part of a ship. It was sailing. And now all the crew members move and all start to get their own canoes and start moving. That is completely different from another ship that is also moving in a different direction. So this time around, they are competing ships from the same... within the same mothership, but Kennedy's own, nobody has really jumped ahead of. People are still with him. Indeed, and interestingly, you remember Stika was not formally with Kennedy Agyapong. Today he's with Kennedy Agyapong. Kwarteng was not formally with Kennedy Agyapong. Today he's Kennedy Agyapong. Charles Forson now openly is with Kennedy Agyapong. Of course, some of them I do not have their permission. As much Chemi and Co. They are all publicly with Kennedy Agyapong. Last elections, you realize that I was almost indifferent. Of course, I had to align with where my boss was aligning. Certainly, you may have to publicly align with Dr. Bawumia. But today, I'm also with Kennedy Agyapong. But for Kennedy Agyapong, his strength does not even lie in the power brokers. No. Kennedy Agyapong's strength has always been with the grassroots, the ordinary people, the people that you may not place so much value on them in terms of holding so much influence and power. These are the people that he has been speaking for. These are the people that he has been advocating for. These are the people that he has been always saying that the party should take care of them. And that is where his strength lies. And we are of the view that they have the numbers. The constitution makes it clear. Sovereignty resides in their people. So even with our electoral process, we believe that much and greater sovereignty resides with them.
And that is where that before Kennedy Agyapong becomes a presidential candidate, he ought to cross the delegates test. Strong competition you're now facing with 5 individuals. Because these are people, as you're pointing out, with quite a great standing in the party. What's your estimated outcome in terms of the projections you are already making as to how this will fare? In
terms of Kennedy winning,
the primaries, yes.
In terms of Kennedy winning, yes, sometimes you're also guided by the polls that is coming around. But of course, we also sponsor internal polls to also guide our internal campaigning and decision making. For about sitting here, I may think we should be doing around 62 to 64%. The reason is this. I always reference Musa Dankwa, who I so much respect, even though the last time he initially gave Kennedy 4%, then 10%, then 18%, but Kennedy had 37%. So let it be on record that there have been instances, of course, without any means of discrediting Musa Dankwa, but let it be on record that last year, the prediction that he gave to Kennedy, he almost doubled it, or even more than that, because 18 times 2 should give around 36, but Kennedy had 37%. So he multiplied it by 2 and even added +1. But so we are guided by that. But if you look at Musa Dankwa this time, the research that, for instance, is coming out, you notice a trend that every month Dr. Bawumia's votes reduced by about 5%. Even though Kennedy Agyapong's votes per Musa Dankwa doesn't increase, what it presupposes is that, especially if you are doing analysis of the data, is that usually people are not afraid to voice out where they are going to vote, especially if they are aligned with the establishment candidate. But right now that the votes are reducing and they say they are undecided, or they will not disclose. They are not going to tell you who they are going to vote for. Reasonably could be for Kennedy or Brian. But going by the same trend and same trajectory, the descending trajectory, if we are to maintain that where every month Dr. Bawumia's vote is today by 5%, 5%, 5%, 4 months to come, he will going to lose about 20%, which means he's going to get around 27%. And I am damn sure that the 27% that he's going to get will be looking at about 73% to be shared among himself and Dr. Brian Champa and Dr. Duchum. And I'm projecting he to pick around 62-64%.
Let me be more direct about this. What is it that Kennedy Agyapong has to offer the NPP that you haven't seen in any other candidate, including Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, who led the party to the last election of the NPP?
Kennedy Agyapong is assuring two things. One to the party and one to Ghanaians. But of course, they interrelate. The first one is to the party is that he assured them he's going to win as power in 2028. To win as power, we will need a strong candidate. You saw what happened to us at Nablekumano, where we were treated as second-class citizens in our own country. I'm not sure under the leadership of Kennedy we will be able to watch that. I'll tell you what Kennedy will not do. We will not go into an election where the EC gives 72 hours ultimatum to declare. And at some point, Kennedy, maybe in an attempt to look good and prepare himself for the next election, comes out prematurely and say that, yeah, we've lost the election in advance. I'm not going to, I've accepted defeat. And then leaves the rest of the army to fight for their own battle. That's what Kennedy will not do.
I mean, on hindsight, are you telling me that you don't support Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia's early concession?
I will tell you what Kennedy will not do. It's not about Dr. Bawumia. So I've told you.
You're looking at the outcome of the election. You've lost significant votes in Parliament.
Yeah, but
lost the election
remember,
by
let me compare that.
A million votes.
Before I come to the next.
What else would you have done?
Before I come to the next thing that Kennedy will do, let me also compare that to 2020.
Yes.
Remember candidate Mahama? He had lost with over 500,000 votes difference to candidate Akufo-Addo. Lost even in Parliament. Yeah. But he laid a claim that he was leading Parliament with 148 seats. He maintained and insisted on that claim, even failed to congratulate
Akufo-Addo. Yeah, but to be fair, that was never the comment of President John Dramani Mahama.
Which one?
It was Asiedu Nketia who addressed the press at that time. That they flipped they were
in a comfortable lead and they flipped some of the football.
And then we had Otokuno Kampu.
So you think Mahama
but it was never the president. I'm just pointing you to.
But I'm suggesting to you that was the decision of the party headed by John Mahama then. He was a candidate. Yeah. I am suggesting that to you. And I'm even moving beyond suggestion. I'm putting it to you.
Yes.
That you can.
Lawyer counsel is now putting it to me. I agree on that. Yes.
So I mean, whichever way, that was the position of
the party. Yes.
Yes. So candidate Mahama then stood till the whole process ended. To the extent that he was able to secure 137 and share parliament with us. That 137 maybe even did the magic for them relative to the other subsequent election in 2024. Now compare that to what Kennedy Agyapong will not do. I'm not telling you. I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about what Kennedy Agyapong will do. So Kennedy Agyapong will demonstrate courage. Kennedy Agyapong will make sure that we fight till the end of the battle. And most importantly, what Kennedy Agyapong is going to do, if you ask me in 3 sentences, I'll tell you that Kennedy Agyapong is going to do 1, he's going to create jobs. 2, Kennedy Agyapong is going to create jobs. 3, Kennedy Agyapong is going to create jobs. And essentially, Kennedy Agyapong is going to produce about 1 million businessmen who are going to turn the fortunes of the country using entrepreneurship and job creation.
I get that. So that's the vision of Ken. Will Kennedy Agyapong, for instance, in the interest of unity, because you need that, that's key for you going into the next election, support Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia either as running mate if things don't turn out well for him in the primaries?
I think their visions are different. Kennedy Agyapong's vision for Ghana, he can well implement it when he's the head of the team, when he's the president.
Yeah, but you're selling the same boat as the NPP.
No, but I'm saying that if that is a logic, then we should let one candidate go for the primaries. I'm saying that each of them has their visions completely different. Kennedy Agyapong's vision, he can best implement it when he's the president of the country.
Not as vice president. As vice president, you're going to be technically be in charge of the.
But remember what Dr. Bawumia.
And by the way, I'm not saying that is what ideally should happen. It could be the other way around. But I'm just suggesting that if you become a running mate, if Kennedy Agyapong becomes a running mate to Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, he then has the power, if you're successful,
Are you sure?
The economic management team. Is that not a better opportunity to demonstrate How you
are you sure vice presidents have a lot of powers in this country?
They don't.
Because the way Dr. Bawumia still made us believe that when it comes to the dollar, his advice was not heard. DDEP, he didn't know. When the increase fuel, he didn't know. So I'm not sure vice presidents.
Do you believe him on that he didn't have too much powers?
Well, I want to keep it for myself.
Oh, okay. Okay. But in some sense, you agree. If you agree,
I agree to
why
what?
Then? I mean, that the vice president may not have
that is a claim that he lead.
Yeah.
I have not had the privilege of being exposed to all the information surrounding.
Yeah, but assuming without admitting that that's the case, then of course we can't say that indeed Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia did not have the entire control over the party. Talk less of.
You know the reverse.
The policy.
See, what makes that argument very difficult for some people to believe, according to certain school of thought, is that when it comes to a lot of the nice policies too, he appears to be frontlining digitalization, Ghana card, or the paperless something interoperability.
Yes.
So it makes it difficult for anybody to believe that on one side you didn't know a lot of things, or you were stifled to work, and by the other side, almost all the nice things you were doing it. But I leave it to the jury out there. I am not able to
convince me one more time on why Ken. Okay, and I'm taking it from this angle that the same Musa Dankwa that you're referring to or citing is giving us a sense of what might happen in the 2028 elections. He says, and I'm just paraphrasing, that it would take a huge misgovernance on the part of the NDC for the NPP to ever win the next elections in 2028. If you believe Musa Dankwa at some point that, of course, his ratings will go in the favor of your candidate, how then would it take any other candidate, even if you're taking out Bawumia out of the picture, including Kennedy or Agyapong, to turn around this misfortune or doom waiting to happen while waiting the NPP?
You see, data is also read and interpreted in a context, especially within a time frame. I am sure if Musa Dankwa is to do another data in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, maybe you may get a different outcome. I feel it's too early for any pollster to come into such conclusion that it will take a huge misgovernance on the part. No, I don't think it's really about misgovernance. It has also more to do with what Ghanaians want. Whichever way. Yeah. Personality also counts.
Okay.
NDC, whichever way, are statute barred to present candidate Mahama again. Obviously, they are going to present a new choice. Assuming, without admitting that the new choice is a General Mosquito or the one who has been going for keep fit.
The chief of staff.
Our chief of staff, yes. Our chief of staff. Sorry, no disrespect to him. I forgot it. Our chief of staff. Yeah. Certainly the dynamics is also obviously going to change a bit.
Right.
It may not necessarily be premised on what John Mahama is doing. And what different is John Mahama doing? Well, if you look at
that's why I'm asking you to convince me how Kennedy Agyapong
I am coming. If you look at even one, you see, that is why even people also believe that sometimes even posters, when they attain the credibility, also attempt to also shape voter behavior. These are a school of thought. Right. It may be speculated, but it may also be founded. Because what at all is John Mahama doing? Talk about Galamsey. You people are starting documentaries that you should save the land. It was one of his trump cards where he weaponized against Akufo-Addo and projected the picture as though Galamsey is Akufo-Addo, and when Akufo-Addo is removed from office, all of a sudden Galamsey will be solved. Has he been able to solve that? Ghanaians will hold him into account on that. He spoke about 24-hour economy. Let's look at the state of that implementation of the 24-hour economy. The next can go on. If we divide the number of promises that he gave, he should be doing around 69 per every year. How many has he implemented so far? So I don't think such, even based on reasonability and the reasonable man test and basic logic test and basic observation, I don't think such a pool. I don't know when he did it. Maybe if it was in January, fine, because at that time Mahama had so much of a goodwill. But now, with Galamsey still getting it so worse in this country, if Musa Dankwa is to conduct a point and say that Ghanaians are so happy with Galamsey, then so be it. I'm sure Ghanaians will speak louder during 2028. But 2028 is not really about parties. 2028 is about personalities. 2028 is about what you are going to bring on board. Look at the World Bank. World Bank is saying that by the next 10 years, about 1.2 billion people are going to search for jobs in developing economies. Out of that 1.2 billion looking for jobs, only about 400 million jobs will exist. It essentially means that 800 million people will look for jobs and the jobs will not exist. Maybe you may say that, oh, that is the global perspective, but let's even come to Ghana. We deceive ourselves. We say, oh, unemployment rate is about 14%. But let's look at the quality of life of those who are even employed. People the World Bank and even Ghana Statistical Service will tell you that about 80% of those who are employed are underpaid, getting less than $200 because it's around.
So that's where Ken comes in?
I'm coming. Getting about 3,000 Ghana cedis a month. How much do you pay for rent? How much do you pay for your car service? How much do you pay for your children's school fees? And the 20% of them, World Bank and Ghana Statistical Service will then tell you that they are even living extreme poverty. There are other researches and other data which says that when a half of national service completes school, it takes a minimum of 10 years for that half of, when the national service, a batch completes school, it takes a minimum of 10 years for half of that batch to get permanent employment. So we are living on a time bomb. It is the more reason why Agyapong, with its track record in job creation, and at the individual level has been able to create about 7 jobs, which has employed about 7,000 people. If he has the capacity to do it at that, national level, we believe that he will solve the problem of unemployment. That is where Ken comes in.
So that's where Ken comes in?
Yeah, that's where it comes in.
So jobs. How does he intend to create the jobs? And which kind of job will Kennedy Agyapong be creating?
Ken believes that there is a link between socio-economic transformation and agriculture. He believes that there is a link between socio-economic transformation and tourism. Those are the key variables that he's going to benchmark his job creation on. And of course, you also heard him speak about the Asian magic model, where you empower the private sector, the private way. So, for instance, if Kwasi can recruit 10,000 people, this time around, build his capacity so that he'll be able to recruit 100,000 people. If Zoom Lion can be able to recruit 100,000 people, build his capacity so that he'll be able to recruit 1 million people. If there are 10 Zoom Lions in Accra, make sure you create 100 Zoom Lions in Accra. If each one of them is recruiting, say, 10,000 people in 500, that's about 1 million jobs. And automatically you fix the unemployment problem. People then tend to pay taxes, and you are good to go.
All right. So we need to go because we just have about a minute to go. If it's not Ken, who else on the ballot should the delegates go for as the next leader of the party?
I mean, that would be very fatal for me. But if it is not Ken, I don't think it should be Dr. Bawumia. I strongly believe first it should be Ken. But assuming without admitting, for the purpose of academic exercise, that is not Ken, it shouldn't be Dr. Bawumia. We, even in the spirit of revival, after 16 years of having been in the helm of affairs of the party, we believe that a different person should take the helms of affairs of this country.
If it doesn't happen the way you want it to happen, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia gets to win, are we assured that Team Ken will unite behind whichever candidate the NPP will choose?
We will unite. But again, it also comes to what Musa Dankwa said.
Right.
That if we bring Dr. Bawumia again, NPP should be ready to lose the next general election. And that aside, Ken, it is almost impossible for NPP to win 2028 elections and even beyond.
Let me give you the last 30 seconds to speak to delegates of the party and Ghanaians who are watching us tonight. What would you want them to know?
We just appeal to their conscience. That if you look at the state of the party, the last electoral defeat that we had, the current state of the party with this unity, the state of the country where our young people do not have jobs. We need that person with remarkable track record of achievement, that person with those character traits, being disciplined, being bold, being assertive, being very critical, to be able to also salvage the party. Because I don't want to suggest that we don't have much strong leadership, but I think we could have also done better. And you need that figure, that kind of Agyapong figure, to unite the party and win power for us and create jobs. So we will continue to appeal to them. Like the Bible says, the heart of the king is in the hands of the Lord. Like the river that turneth, he turneth it where, the river that floweth, he turneth it wherever he likes. So we will trust God that he will place the burden of Kennedy